Okay, let's find our materials that we'll need for our dissection. I want you to start with gloves. Make sure that you've got gloves that fit your hands. Make sure that they don't have tears or holes in them. If we get into this dissecting and you get some of the dissection kind of juice in there and it gets to a hangnail or a cut, that's going to be pretty painful for you. So make sure you do your gloves first. Then we're going to grab your apron, put it on. You might need to have a partner help tie it behind you. So we'll do that next. Make sure that we have our safety glasses, our safety goggles. Again, if some of the chemicals that are that the specimen are preserved in get in our eyes, just not going to be good. So we want to make sure we've got our safety goggles on as well. The dissection tools that we'll be using are, of course, our dissecting tray. We have blue and white ones, so color doesn't matter. It's going to do the same thing either way. You'll need your scalpel so that we can make our incision on the earthworm. We'll need scissors because once we've made our incision, we'll want to snip through the skin of the earthworm with those scissors. Okay. Once we've snipped through the skin, we'll want to be able to peel it back to either side to reveal the internal anatomy, and we'll be able to use our forceps and our gloved hands to do that. So you'll need a pair of forceps. To point to internal structures, we'll have a pointer or a pointing pin. I like to use this one better because you can stick it in the dissection tray. We'll also need several pins, 6, 7, 8 of them, because once we peel that skin back, we want to be able to pin it into place in several different segments on the worm. So make sure you've got at least 6, if not 8 or 10 of those. Last, you'll want your hand lens so that you can look even closer at some of these very small organs inside the worm. Once you have all of your supplies gathered, you'll come to me and I will get you your earthworm. So from here we want to move into the external anatomy of the earthworm, and I want to go over a couple words with you that I'll be using. This side of the earthworm that has this dark tone to it and this rounded shape is called the dorsal side of the organism. If we were to talk about the dorsal side of a human, it would be our back side, the back of our head, the back of our torso, all the way down to the bottoms of our feet. So that's our dorsal side of our organism. As opposed to our dorsal side, we can flip the organism over and we have what's called the ventral side of the organism, like the underbelly of the worm. So if we were to talk about the ventral side of a human, it would be our face, the front of our torso, all the way down to the tops of our feet. So here's our ventral side of the worm. We're going to start with the external anatomy on the ventral side. And we're actually going to move from, here's 2 more new words, our anterior end of the organism, where the mouth is, the anterior is toward the mouth, all the way down the organism to the posterior end. And the posterior end is where, you guessed it, you'll find the anus. So towards the anus is posterior, toward the mouth is anterior. So we want to talk about that external anatomy, the structures on the earthworm that you can see from the outside where you don't have to dissect them. We'll start down here with the mouth of the organism, and I'll use my pointing pin for the mouth of the organism. The mouth will actually be, kind of zoomed in here, just this hole right here at the end. Okay, and so covering the mouth is this lip-like structure that's called the prostomium. Okay, its sole purpose is to just cover the mouth. So the hole here is the mouth. This little flap of skin is the prostomium. It's going to act like a lip and cover the mouth up. Okay, so I'm going to put the worm back down. And as we move down the worm, we're going to see several segments. This segmentation is characteristic of our phylum Annelida. The word annelid means ringed or segmented. So we're going to see these segments here. In between each segment, we're going to have some tissue that just forms a little crevice here, and it actually goes all the way through the organism. That's called the septum. So we'll see this pattern: segment, septum, segment, septum, segment, septum. And on either side of our segments, which we can't see unless we look really, really close, we're going to have kind of little nubs on the ends of the earthworms, on the segments. And those are going to be used for locomotion. They're called the setae. I'm going to see if I can't pinch them back. This earthworm's kind of old. It's been sitting out all day, so I don't know if we can see them right now. But as we move toward the posterior end, we're going to see these two large pores. Those are going to be our male genital pores. They'll obviously be used for sexual reproduction. They'll excrete the sperm. And then the sperm will travel down these nice sperm grooves, these kind of vertical lines here. And then you can see the other one on the other side here. Those sperm grooves are going to help the sperm move toward the egg from another worm. Our female genital pores are even smaller. They're just not visible. But there's going to be one on the anterior side of each male genital pore, here and here, and they'll actually excrete the eggs. If we continue moving down toward the posterior end of the organism, we can stop right here where we see almost looks like there's a piece of tape around the worm. And that's going to be the clitellum. That also aids in sexual reproduction. Its main job is just secreting mucus that forms a cocoon around the fertilized egg. So it helps that egg to eventually develop into a full-grown worm. So that's our external anatomy of our earthworm.